Good evening, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. It's good to see you all here, in spite of the rain, the drizzle. I still have the interest to come to listen to the Dhamma talk. Tonight we're going to discuss this Dana and Sila. Dana, probably many of you know, is offering or charity. OC in Cantonese, and Sila is moral conduct. This word Sila has also come into Bahasa Malaysia. So these two things, Dana and Sila, are very basic practice of a lay Buddhist, and it is very important that lay Buddhists understand this Dana and Sila and practice it. All religions, or all good religions, teach us to do good and not to harm others. And this is what Dana and Sila is all about. Dana is doing good, positive good. Sila is not harming others. Refraining from harming others. So these are the positive and the negative aspect of doing good. And for lay people, these two things are easier to practice. And besides this, there are higher levels of Dhamma practice, which are more advanced and which many lay people cannot do. But these two things, Dana and Sila, you should do for your own welfare. And why is it so important? Can be seen in a sutta. In a sutta, a discourse of the Buddha said that three things, we get merit in doing three things. One is charity, Dana. Another one is Sila, moral conduct. And the third is Bhavana, Dana, Sila, Bhavana. Bhavana means development. And basically it means development of the mind. That means meditation. And why is it called development of the mind? Because an ordinary mind is obstructed by five things called the five hindrances, Pancha Nivarana. And these five hindrances prevent us from seeing things clearly. What are these five things? Sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and doubt. So when we practice meditation, especially the type of meditation that gives us deep tranquility, then when we attain tranquility or concentration of mind, these five hindrances drop away. That is why it's called development of the mind, because if a person attains this state of calmness, whereby the five hindrances drop off, then the mind is developed. It becomes different from the ordinary mind. And a person with with a low level of hindrances is a person with a high IQ. He can see things very clearly. But development of the mind, bhavana, is difficult for lay people to practice. And Dana and Sila, the other two aspects of getting married, or the other two ways of getting married, are much easier. That's why it is encouraged for lay people. Now in one sutta, the Buddha said, these two things, Dana and Sila, charity and moral conduct, if you practice it to a very low degree, very little, then it is expected that you, when you pass away, you will come back to get a human rebirth. You will get a human rebirth. But when you are reborn as a human, you won't have much luck. You won't have much blessings. Whereas won't have much blessings means you're probably born into a low family, a poor family, and then when you try to earn a living, it's difficult to earn a living. And besides that, you may have some defects in your physical appearance. You might be a paraplegic or half blind or something. So that is a person with no blessings. Or very little blessings. So this is what happens when a person does very little, observes very little dana and sila. But at least he gets a human rebirth. A person who does charity and keeps the moral conduct or precepts to a medium degree, it is expected that he will be reborn as a human being with a lot of blessings, with great blessings. You might be born into a wealthy family, a good family, and then it's very easy for you to earn your livelihood. Cari makan senang. So the Buddha also said, the third thing is that if you observe these two things, dana and sila, to a high degree, you do a lot of charity and you keep your precepts very well, then the Buddha said that it is expected that you can get a heavenly rebirth where you will enjoy life for a very, very long time. So that is why it is good to observe these two things, charity and keeping the precepts of moral conduct. So from this, although the Buddha did not mention, the fourth thing you can conclude from these three things is that if a person does not do these two things, charity and moral conduct, does not observe these two things at all, then that person won't come back as a human being, won't get a human rebirth, won't get a heavenly rebirth. Instead, he'll go down to the three woeful planes of rebirth. Slightly below the human level is the ghost realm. A lot of human beings, because of insufficient blessings, they are reborn as ghosts. That's why our Chinese believe 7 days after a person passes away, that person will indicate to you that the person has come back to the house. If that person gives any indication that that person has come back to the house, usually it means that that person is reborn as a ghost. Then only he can come back. Then the second type of woeful plane rebirth is the animal realm. Animal realm is worse than the ghost realm because in the animal realm they devour each other, eat each other alive. So there's a second type of woeful rebirth. The third and the worst is the hell realm rebirth. Hell realm rebirth, where a person does a lot of evil and is reborn in the hell realm to suffer a lot, both physically as well as mentally. Now, of these two things, charity and moral conduct, you could say that actually sila, moral conduct, is more important because if a person does not observe moral conduct, that person will be liable to kill, for example, go hunting, and to steal or cheat people, to commit adultery, to lie, etc. So, if that person does not have this moral conduct at all, that it is expected that that person would be reborn, for example, in the animal realm or even in hell. Whereas if a person does not do dana, charity, that means that person is short of blessings. And a person short of blessings is generally reborn as a ghost. A ghost realm is slightly worse than the human realm. So, in the observance of sila, the moral conduct, the Buddha taught that 5 basic precepts are very important. Every person has got to observe these 5 precepts for his or her own good, regardless of whether that person is a Buddhist or a Christian, or a Muslim, or a Hindu, etc., or even a non-believer, a free thinker, still has to observe these 5 precepts. These 5 precepts in Pali is called Pancha Sila. And Pancha Sila in Buddhism is so famous that in Indonesia, during President Sukarno's time, he also decided that they also must observe Pancha Sila. But Indonesian Pancha Sila was slightly changed. These 5 precepts, the first one is not to kill, not to purposely take the life of any living being intentionally. And that is put as the first precept. And the second precept is not to take what is not given to you. Not to take what is not given to you is slightly more strict than stealing. Stealing is, you know that you should not take it and yet you take it. But taking what is not given to you is, for example, like somebody lost something, dropped something on the floor, and then it's not given to you, but yet you pocket it because later that person may come back to look for this object. So it does not belong to you, you should not take it. The third one is not to commit adultery. And the fourth one is not to lie. The fifth is not to take intoxicants, drugs or liquor, because when you take intoxicants to the extent that you are intoxicated, then you lose control of yourself. What you should not do, you do. What you should not say, you say. And what you should do, you don't do. What you should say, you don't say. So you have no control of yourself. Now these 5 precepts are so important that even in the laws of a country, if you break, especially the first 4 precepts, you could get into serious trouble. For example, if you kill another human being, you will probably get a life sentence or death penalty if you kill another human being. The second one, if you steal or you cheat somebody, or you steal somebody's property, you can also get into the trouble with the law. Third one, if you seduce somebody's wife or commit adultery, you also can get into big trouble in the law. The fourth one, if you lie and cheat people, also you could get into big trouble with the law. So, of these 5 precepts, why is killing put as the number 1 precept? Because actually it's the most important. Because every living being, there is nothing more valuable to us than our life. If somebody borrowed, say, $1 million from you, or even if they took away, cheated you of all your property, when you are about to die, you might still forgive them. Why? Because you know that when we die, we cannot even take a single cent with us. Yes or not? There's nothing in this world we can take along with us when we die. So everything in this world, nothing in this world actually belongs to us. It is because of our good karma, of our blessings, that we get to use certain things temporarily. We get to use certain things. And then when life is ended, we have to give up everything and go empty-handed. So because of that, if somebody took a lot of our property away or stole our money, etc., we still can forgive. But generally, if somebody took your life, you would feel like taking revenge when you are about to die. Because there is nothing more important than your life. Then the result of this breaking this precept, the killing precept, if you often break this precept, for example, a person likes to go hunting, shoot wild boar and shoot all kinds of animals, then because of making the other beings' life short, the result of karma vipaka is that you will have short life in your future rebirth, or possibly sometimes even this life itself, you may have short life. because we know there are some hunters, they go shooting wild boar, and then one day they get shot by their friends because their friends saw them as a wild boar. So they get shot. So you can see the karma ripen in this very life itself. The second precept is not to take what is not given to you. If we break this precept often, then the result is that people will also steal from us. There are some people, they have a factory or they employ workers in their company or what, and then you find that the workers like to steal the things from the boss. So that is the result of stealing karma. And then the third precept is not to commit adultery. If a person commits adultery, then he breaks up another person's family, and then he causes others to hate him. And then the other result of adultery is that you might be reborn as an animal, because animals have very strong sensual desire. And then when you are born as an animal, you might be castrated many lifetimes. There was a story in the Theri Gatha, Arahant Nun, when she attained Arahanthood, she saw her previous life. And then she recalled that she was a man before and committed adultery, and as a result, she was reborn as an animal many times and was castrated many times. And then when she was born as a human being also, a lot of people didn't like her. So that is a result of breaking the adultery precept. Then the fourth precept is not to lie. If we lie often, then it is possible, it is probable that people will also lie to us in the future. And then the fifth precept, not to take intoxicants to the extent of being intoxicated. If we constantly take intoxicants, then the Buddha said it is very likely that when you come back as a human being, there is something wrong with your brain. So, one thing we must understand in our Buddhist Sila, our Buddhist precepts are not like Christian commandments. Christian commandments, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, etc. They are commandments. You cannot break them at all. But in Buddhism, the Buddha said that when we recite our precepts, we recite Panatipata Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. It means I undertake to train myself to abstain from killing. So you only undertake to train yourself. You don't promise that you will not break the precepts. So when you say you undertake to train yourself, that means you try your best to uphold the precept. And sometimes as a beginner, it is not possible to be very strict with the precepts. For example, a lot of new Buddhists, they always ask, I can't keep this precept. Sometimes this mosquito comes and bite me. I like to well up. It's very natural. And then as we progress, as we understand more Dhamma, then we can keep the precepts better. So actually these precepts, it is quite impossible to keep them 100%. For example, if your house is invaded by white ants, if you don't call the rent to kill company, then your house may come down. So you have to sometimes do some killing. But the Buddha said what is not necessary, and don't harm other living beings if it is not necessary. Sometimes, like you have your own child, your own children, sometimes they are naughty, so you have to wallop them, yes or not, for their own good. So we have to use our wisdom. Now this killing precept, it is not necessary that we must be vegetarians. The Buddha was a very practical person, and he said that what is important is that we don't directly cause the killing of living beings. So the Buddha allowed that if you buy meat in the market, an animal that is already killed, or fish that is dead, so you don't directly contribute to its killing, then it's alright. Because even if every human being became vegetarian in this world, there will still be killing. Killing is something that cannot be avoided. We don't, even if we don't eat the meat of animals, they will multiply so fast that very soon they will be running all over the highways, and plus we'll have to engage people to kill them. Even now, the government has to get these workers to kill stray dogs without license, because if they multiply too much, then they become rabid, and they bite people. People will get sick. So, what is important? The Buddha said, if we eat meat, it must have three conditions. We do not see, we do not hear, and we do not suspect that the animal was purposely killed for us. Those people who slaughter animals, they are not actually directly killing for us. They slaughter to sell the meat. What you do with the meat is not their concern. Whether you take the meat and throw it away, or you feed it to some animal and all that. What they want is just money. So they are not actually killing directly for you. Besides the 5 precepts, the Buddha taught that lay people should keep the 8 precepts once a week, because the Buddha said life is very uncertain. We don't know when we are going to pass away. Just about a month ago, this former kappiya of mine, kappiya is a person who looks after the monks' accounts and who helps the monk buy things and all that. He was 49 years old in Penang, suddenly passed away because he had a weakness for good food. Whenever he came across good food, he could not control himself. So he already had a warning about 3-4 years ago. He had a stroke. But because he was a very good, decent person, he had this Kwayan, somebody who did reflexology on him, and he recovered completely from his stroke. But after a few years, he went back to his old habit of eating excessively. Suddenly, one day, he just died on the bed. So we don't know when we are going to pass away. So because of that, the Buddha said that actually every one of us actually has cancer. Our body is like a cancer. When when the doctor pronounces that you have cancer, what does he say? He may say you have at the most, say you are expected to have at the most, say 2 years more to live or 5 years more to live. But he cannot tell exactly when you will die. Yes or not? And he cannot be certain also that within 5 years you will die. Maybe you might continue to live on. So, in the same way, the Buddha says every one of us has got cancer because we don't know when we are going to die. We might die within 1 year, we might die within 5 years, within 10 years. But definitely within 30 years or so, definitely most of us will be dead. So, because we don't know when we are going to die, and and we might die suddenly. So the Buddha said, even lay people, you have to think of cultivating yourself at least once a week. Once a week, you should keep the 8 precepts. And what are the 8 precepts? Basically, it's the 5 precepts plus the 6th precept is not to eat normal food between noon and the next morning. Not to eat normal food, rice and all that. But if you are hungry at night, you can make a drink. So that is the 6th precept. The 7th precept basically has 2 precepts. One is not to see shows, listen to music, see television, sing songs and all that. And the other part of it is not to adorn your body, put makeup or perfume, etc. And then the 8th precept is not to sleep on high and wide beds, luxurious beds. So when you practice these 8 precepts, you are trying to be like a monk or a nun for 1 day and 1 night. So because you have this urge to renounce, the merit is very great. And the Buddha said in the suttas that if lay people keep the 8 precepts constantly, the chances of being reborn in heaven are very great. And when you are reborn in heaven, you enjoy life in terms of millions of years. So it is worth the trouble to at least once a week keep the 8 precepts. If you can't keep it in the Buddhist society or in the monastery, at least try to keep it at home. Now, what are the disadvantages of not practicing Sila? The first one, if a person does not keep the Sila, is he will squander away whatever wealth he has through drinking, womanizing, nightlife, gambling, etc. That's the first disadvantage of not keeping Sila. The second one is he will have a bad reputation because people will say this person is a drunkard or is a gambler or is a womanizer, etc. Third one is he will not be confident before a crowd of people who don't have moral conduct. They dare not face people because they are ashamed they have done something wrong. Number 4, if you don't keep Sila, then you can have remorse later. Remorse will trouble you, make you restless. And then there are some people before they become very old, they become senile, partly because of that. Because if you don't have good Sila, the mind is troubled. Some people in their 50s, they will become senile already. Whereas there are some, I have an old supporter in Penang, 80 plus years old. Her Sila is very good and her memory is very good. She can remember telephone numbers and all that. Then the 5th disadvantage of not keeping Sila is that when we die, we become frightened, very frightened. Because we know we are going to have a bad rebirth. There are some people when they die, they even shout in terror. Then the 6th disadvantage of not keeping Sila is that you'll have a bad rebirth in a woeful plane. So that's about Sila. Now, Dana, now we talk about Dana. Dana is charity. Charity, normally when we talk about charity, that means giving material things, like giving money and all that. But besides that, you can also donate your energy or your time, etc. And even comforting words, especially if some friend or some acquaintance is sick with cancer or with some bad, very serious ailment, then it is very good if you can go and see that person and give him or her some comforting words. This is especially true, needed if that person is terminally ill. And a lot of Chinese have a bad reputation of pantang. Somebody is very sick, they don't like to go. They think, might get some bad luck, or might get sick or something. But if we understand the Dhamma, then we should not be afraid. What is important is if we perform good karma. When we perform good karma, we have a lot of blessings. And when you have a lot of blessings, then our, one pak, ko ji un kwan. So then we are not afraid. Now, as far as making offerings or charity, there are 4 things called the 4 requisites that every person needs. The first one is food. The second one is clothing. For a monk will be robes. The third one is medicinal care. The fourth one is place to sleep, place to stay. And these are the basic necessities of every person. So when we do charity, these are the basic things that we have to give, we have to do.